Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to exit your highly appreciated assets tax deferred so you can create, preserve, and grow your wealth. I'm your co-host, Pearson York, filling in for Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best wealth, business, real estate, and leadership individuals in the world to share ideas, deal stories, inspiration, and leadership guidance. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple, passive income plans achievable. We're streaming on expertcresecrets.com, Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel, the Kingdom Luxury Realty YouTube channel, and the Kingdom Luxury Realty Facebook channel. Our next guest has already been a guest on the show. He's a real estate multifamily syndicator, expert in his field. Eddie Austin. Eddie, how you doing? Welcome back.
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me back. I'll tell you, man, the first episode was just mind blowing. And I'll be honest, when we left, we wanted to do so much more. So I'm happy to be back because I got some questions. You know, you don't know what you don't know until you get around people like you and Brett. And then at that time, you feel like the glass is half full. Let's fill it the rest of the way up with knowledge. And
yeah, absolutely.
you guys are
Absolutely.
great at what you do.
Fantastic. So guys, to hear, if you guys listen to the show for any number of episodes, you know, there's a flow that we stick to. But we've already had Eddie on. So if you want to hear Eddie's backstory and his full gifts and all that, you guys can go back and listen to that episode. But Eddie, just a real quick, brief synopsis of the last show for people if they didn't hear it and they
Sure.
They don't want to go back or they don't have time.
Yeah, so we went over my background. Me and my wife started in the single family fix and flip era, low door count multifamily. We both come from the industrial space, and multifamily was the answer to create wealth. And the biggest thing for us is creating purpose for others, and multifamily gives that. It gives an opportunity for people to retire. It gives people the opportunity to sell a business and put the money into some type of another asset like passive income, multifamily real estate. And we love the business model, and that's what we decided to get rid of everything else and just do multifamily and do syndication and syndication funds.
Awesome. Okay. So, so for those of you who want to learn more about Eddie's background and everything, go listen to another episode. So, all right, Eddie, you had some questions. So
Yes.
Let's fire these bad boys off and maybe just a little bit of background about where these questions are stemming from.
So we went to a real estate conference and we met a lot of great people. And during that time, I had several people that approached me and said, well, you're a business owner. You own multiple businesses yourself, not just real estate. And what if I was to sell my business, how could I invest that into your fund? Now, I've even had people that sold properties and called and said, can I invest a 1031 into your fund? And to be honest, I talked to my legal professional and he said, no, Eddie, there's maybe ways to do it, but it's very complex. The 1031 is for selling a property in a certain period of time, investing in another property that has a higher basis value. So, we're kind of stuck at that point. So I didn't really have the answer. I didn't like that. So then after discovering you all's podcast and discovering there is ways to do this. And at that time, my mind was left with, I got to learn more because we want to be able to create value to the people that approach us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you a question. How much money do you think you left on the table with people who come to you with, I got 1031 money that I'm not taking?
Millions.
Millions.
I mean, I had one person call. They had probably, I think they had $6 or $7 million in a 1031. And
Jeez.
let's see. I mean, we all faced it. We faced it ourselves head on. Cap rate compression is a real thing right now.
It is.
And it still is. It's getting better, but it's still there. So finding properties can be hard. And we have a team that specifically works on finding off market and to find opportunities and create opportunities. So he was at his witness in and said, "Hey, I've got a 1031 and I can't find another property. You guys are a fund. Can we put your 1031 in there?" And I'm not gonna lie. At that time, I feel like we weren't smart enough to pull it off.
Yeah.
So that was a problem. And then we had another person call that said, "Hey, I'm done with COVID. I'm done with everything else. I want to sell my business. And can I invest that money with you?" And I said, "Well, absolutely." Now, of course, he would make the sale, pay his taxes, and then invest in the fund. But there's other ways out there that is a much better route.
There are. And specifically, one of the best ways is a deferred sales trust, which you and Brett already geeked out a little bit about.
A little bit. He gave me enough to say, "You got to be back."
You got to be back. So now he's back, guys. So we're gonna go a little bit ad lib here, and we're gonna dive into this, and we're gonna produce some real value with actual people, because the problem is you're leaving millions on the table. And not only that, but even if even if your business owner, right, does sell his business,
Mhm.
and he pays his tax, how much
Mhm.
less money does he have to put into that fund now that you can't do stuff with? Right. So it's all around better to maximize everything. So for real estate syndicators and for people who are managing funds, this is a phenomenal strategy. So buckle up, guys, because this is going to be a good one. So, all right, Eddie, let's start firing off some questions, man. Let's go.
Well, I guess the first thing is next time I get a phone call, "I got a 1031. Can you help?" How is it possible?
Yeah. So the answer is we can save a failed 1031. Now, it's better if we don't have to, start the 1031 with a qualified intermediary that we don't necessarily work with. Because, I mean, at some point they're kind of like, "Hey, I don't want to, relinquish this deal," right? Like they're not necessarily incentivized to do that. So we work with a couple 1031 exchange accommodators who are all about the deferred sales trust. They'll give you the option to do that. So the first step is, if you're not in a 1031 and you're thinking about doing a 1031 and you want to try one, reach out to us first, right? And then we can put you in touch with the accommodators who we know will allow you to work with it on the back end. Now, sometimes there are accommodators that you're already with and you're in the 1031 and you're, 30 days into, and, you can't find a property and you got 2 weeks or whatever it is, right, to identify this thing, and you're freaking out a little bit. You can call the accommodator, and you're going to have to fight for it a little bit. You may have to fight for it a little bit, but it can be done, and you can get that QI exchanged over to one of the ones that we work with. So if there is that, if you are in that situation and you are looking for kind of like a way out, reach out to us and we will work with you, and we will kind of coach and guide you through what to say to get those funds transferred over to a QI that we will work with, if they will not work with you right off the bat.
Okay.
So yes, but the answer is yes, you can save a failed 1031 exchange. You can do it on 2 days. You can do it on day 46 if you've not identified properties, or you can do it on day 181. So the answer is yes.
Cool. So there is at least a time period of two different times that they would need to get that in there.
Yeah, and sometimes,
or at least get started.
Yeah, and sometimes what we've done in the past is we've even sent it, like someone comes to us, right, and their deal is closing in 2 weeks. They're like, "Hey, we've removed all the contingencies on this deal. We've gotten all of our loan and everything, like, all squared away. We're set to close in 2 weeks. Like, but oh man, like, we have this huge tax all of a sudden. Like, how can we defer this?" And it's like, okay, well, maybe what we do you're lined up for a 1031 already. So maybe what we do is we just put it into the 1031 exchange accommodator that we work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we just wait until day 46. And that just, what that'll do is that'll buy us time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And still give you flexibility in the options. We're very big on the flexibility, right? The options. Like that's one of the main things is we don't want this restrictive stuff. We don't want time constraints. We don't want like kind constraints. We don't want, to have to sell a business, pay the tax to go into your fund. We want to just sell the business and go into your fund. Now, if you're a business, right, you need to get to us early, and you need to do it quicker. Now, we have done it before where, hey, we have, 2 weeks to close and we've removed the contingencies and stuff like that. And we've kind of said, like, we're kind of past that point. So make sure you get there. There are ways, always reach out, but there are ways.
Yeah. That was what I wanted to know for sure, because to me, if you're going to set up a sale of a business or a company or whatever, we want to enter with the right education, asking the right questions, making sure we check the right boxes. So that's one of the things that I wanted to speak with you guys about was, okay, my buddy called me up and he goes, hey, I've got this business. I want to sell it. So what do I do? Because I know the end goal is I want to invest in your fund because I want to put it right back into a passive income style investment vehicle. So with that, what do we need to do? I said, well, I'll ask the right questions, make sure that we do the right things when we start.
The absolute best thing he can do is get with us early, because one of the things that you have to understand about the Deferred Sales Trust is that the Deferred Sales Trust in itself is a phenomenal vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other aspect to that is that the reason why the vehicle is so good is because the people that are around it make it good, right? The tax attorney who created it is a tax savant, like he's like a genius. It's unbelievable. Like the way that his mind can orchestrate and craft this map. It's a piece of art, what he's done. It's amazing how he structured it. Right. And then you have financial advisor, Jake Miller, right. Who is a CPA whisperer, right. Works well with other trained CPAs in all of the big CPA, firms and audited all of their different tax deferral strategies and their vehicles and came up with, these are good and these are not good. We can use these. We can't use these. Brett Swarts, tax, capital gains tax solution trustee, right? Like, very disciplined and does his stuff. Like, make sure that things are done right, done correctly, right? You have the bankers, right? And you have all of these people that come alongside you that help craft this not just deferred sales trust strategy. That is a huge part of it, but there are other strategies as well that we craft this picture and this like puzzle, like a Rubik's cube, like, so I do some of the Rubik's cube, right? And then I pass it to Jake, right? And then Brett does some, and then he passes it to Todd, and then Todd does some, and he passes it to whatever, right? And we build this picture. And so getting in early is super important so that you can, number one, build trust with the people, right? And number two, so we can craft the best strategy for you. Right. And then there's nuances in every deal. People ask me all the time, well, what's the catch, right? Is the deferred sales trust, right, like too good to be true? And the answer is no. The catch is, though, is that it is complicated, right? And it requires a deep dive into each unique situation. It's not a cookie cutter. It's very customizable. It's extremely powerful, but you have to be able to allow people to you gotta let people in, and we gotta be able to figure out, okay, hey, for example, we were on a mastermind the other week, and this guy's was trying to sell his home, and it was a primary home. He wanted to pull out. He wanted to take some cash from the sale to buy another primary home. Now, one of the things you cannot do with a deferred sales trust is you can't go from you can't put it into a personal use asset. So you want to go buy a Ferrari, right, that you're not going to rent out on Turo or something, like, if we can't justify it legitimately, we're not going to do it. Right. So there are different ways of structuring certain things like that. This guy wanted to buy a primary home. You can't technically buy a primary home. But what we found out is that his basis, right, was like, I don't know, 1.6, and he was selling the property for, I think it was like 2.8 or something like that, right? So he had, $400,000 capital gains tax liability, but he only owed, it was like $1 million, right? 1.1. So we're like, okay, now we know what you want to do. Why don't you do this? Why don't you refi? Why don't you pull 250 out? That'll be tax-free, right? That'll bring your basis up. That won't change your basis. You won't have a mortgage over basis, so we won't have to deal with that, right? What we'll do is we'll sell the asset. Then you'll have the 250 in cash. You can go put a down payment on a new home. He was worried about there not being enough income for him to go get a loan. And that's why he wanted to put such a big down payment. And we're like, well, what you can do is you can take this, right? You can take the 250, put it as down payment. You could sell the asset, put it into the trust, right? The trust is going to write you a secured note. And then now at an 8%, preferred rate of return. And then you can take that and that you're going to get monthly or bi-monthly or whatever it is that we set up, distributions, right? That you can now take to the bank and say, hey, look, actually I do have income coming in, right? I've got monthly income coming in on a secured note that's, that is paying me X number of dollars, enough to qualify, right? And of course, we'll set it up to how much do you need to qualify, number one, and then how much do you need to live, right? And make sure that those numbers make sense. But you've got this situation where he's able to pull the 250 out, pay zero tax, eliminate all the debt, still put enough into the trust to where it's going to cash flow enough for him to qualify for the loan. And now the 4% that he's going to pay for the loan, right, is different than the 4% that he's going to make. So he's going to defer, right, $300,000 to $400,000, and he's going to earn a 4% arbitrage on the difference between the loan amount that he's going to get, right, and the amount that he's saving. And he's pulled the money out tax-free. So it just takes working that strategy, right, in order to figure out, okay, what is the best solution for you?
So, that is brilliant. I mean, brilliant. To add something, so many times, how do I say this? So many times you see people say, well, becoming wealthy, has no tax advantages. Well, it all becomes how you make your money. I mean, if you use debt and leverage debt, you have depreciation. Your asset is appreciating. So, you're buying an asset, you're repositioning in it, and then you're using the appreciation, silently. It's just growing more and more. Is getting, it's going to be worth more money when you sell it or refinance it, and your refinance is tax free, just like you said. So, no, 1 to 4 family assets, they don't make sense. You go buy a 5 family or a 30 unit or 100 unit building. You can make a ton of money, and it's tax deferred.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all we do is just read the rules of the government. The government says all we're doing is abiding by the rules. Right. The cool thing about the Deferred Sales Trust is somebody's been smart enough to crack the code.
Right. They just put it together.
Yeah. All they did was, okay, so you say I can do this and do this and do this. Okay, well, let's make it just do this, and we'll call it this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why there's been, a 26-year track record, 3,000 plus closes, 12 random audits have happened with people that have had a deferred sales trust. All 12 of those audits was no changes, no findings. That's like a home inspector coming into your house and saying it's perfect. Don't change anything ever.
Yeah,
It's good. Right. Not only the 12 random audits, but they had 2 formal audits from the IRS where they flew out the entire team that created it and the estate planning team and laid everything out on a whiteboard and went through it. And they said no changes, no findings, not once, but twice. The first time they thought, you know what, maybe we missed something, is too good. And they came back and they did it again. And they're like, nah.
That's impressive.
And then it was audited again by FINRA. So I get people all the time who ask me, oh, well, is this even legit? Because they haven't heard about it. Right. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, here's the track record. Here's the legitimacy of it. Here's the IRS reports. Like, you tell me, like, is it good enough? Is it good enough? Batting 1,000? Like, when's the last time you had an IRS audit that was no changes, no finding, let alone 12 of them?
I don't know many people that don't do that. I think, if I remember correctly, I think Grant's been audited a few times. And I think at one point he maybe threw some money at him just to say, here, you found something. But that's impressive.
Yeah. So anyways, all right. So what's next?
So, so with that, we need to get him in early. We need to say, hey, these are the people we need to talk to. The entity that you're going to invest in is going to be JE Capital when we're all said and done. But the first thing we're going to do is set up this entity. We're going to go through it. So kind of walk me through, if we're going to sell a $10 million business, and what are the things that we need to do? So we identified the end sponsor as JE Capital. I'm sure it's not as simple as that.
So first of all, we already touched on it, but it's set up a strategy call with us, right? You have a deal, right? Set up a strategy call, because there's a lot of nuances with it.
Okay.
Right. It depends. How is the business structured, right? Is it a C Corp? Is it an LLC? Is it a partnership? Is it sole like, how is this structured? First of all, right? Are there stocks? Like what's the situation? Right. So once we've gotten in and we figured out the best way to go, right? The actual mechanics on how the thing works is a super high level overview. Essentially what's going to happen is we're going to line up the end buyer, right? The ultimate end buyer, right? Before we close, okay, we're going to interject Capital Gains Tax Solutions as an unrelated third-party trustee, Brett. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're going to determine the ultimate sales price, which is what we said, $10 million, right? Mm-hmm. So Brett is going to buy the business for $10 million. Okay. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to sell it to the ultimate buyer for $10 million, and they're going to fund the deal. However they're going to do it, whether it's cash, whether it's finance, whether it's whatever it is, right? They're going to fund the trust with money. Okay. And then the trust, right? Once the dust clears, right? The end buyer walks away with the business, right? And the trust is left with the funds. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's been exchanged, everything. Now the trust turns around and writes the seller a note, depending upon what we discussed, previously and their goals and whatever, right? Anywhere between 6 to 8% preferred rate of return, depending upon their risk tolerance. Mm-hmm. Right. And then we can go ahead and we could say, okay, now where do we want to put the funds?
Right.
Now, this is something that's super important. 20% of the funds must stay in liquid grade security assets, because we, as the trustee, right, and the trust, owe this note at a preferred rate of return of 6 to 8%. Okay. Mm-hmm. We owe you, Eddie, if it's $10 million, we owe you, 10 million plus 6% annual return for 10 years, right? That's our note. That's our seller carryback note. Right. And we need to be able to pay you that if, we put everything into an illiquid asset or fund where there's no sort of it's a risk, and it could, we don't want the risk of the trust defaulting, if that makes sense. So we have to have some liquidity in order to pay off. Now, that is not a standard IRS rule. That is a rule that we have developed internally in order to maintain the integrity of the trust so that we don't default on any of these loans. Because if that happens, then we could blow the entire structure up. Right. So we have to keep that 20% liquid so we can service our note. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
I got it. I asked the question again because I wanted people to understand that they need professionals like you to ask to answer these questions, because just as simple as that. Is it an LLC? Is it an S Corp? Is it a C Corp? Do you have stocks? All these are, I don't want to see people try to go out here and do it on their own. They need to contact people like yourself. So
Yeah.
that's why I kind of wanted to drive that question home, because some people will learn a little bit and they'll say, oh, I can do this. And they might get themselves in trouble because you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
getting a
No,
hold
like
of professionals, doing the right thing is the right thing to do. During that, you had said something that did, one of the podcasts that I listened to, the buyer, they were paying all cash. And I asked the question, does it need to be all cash or can they use traditional debt, institutional debt? What is
they
that?
finance however they want.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care. As long as the cash goes in there, right?
Right. You don't care where it comes from as long as it's in there.
I mean, I care if it's cartel money, right?
Yeah. Right.
I'm not trying to get a bunch of like Coke money out there that's like,
Right. Right.
funding our
This ain't a
things.
money laundering camp.
Yeah. I'm not trying to get Breaking Bad over here. Like,
Right.
but however they're going to legitimately finance the deal, like, yeah, well, for sure.
Okay.
Whatever. So
that answered my question.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyways, but yeah, then 80% of the funds can be invested in whatever you want, as long as the deal makes sense. And
Right.
this is another key piece. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you give up, your control. And the answer is like, well, a little bit, but you have people now that are way smarter than me. Like, that are coming in, they're like protecting and saying, look, this is not a good deal, right? You want to buy, some distressed house, right? And like I'll just kind of go like a single family example for a minute, right? And you run your comps, right? And you determine an ARV, of $200,000, right? But you're using comps that are 2 miles away, that are lakefront property, right? In Ohio, right? That's totally been winterized and has no, point of sales with it is like, and you're using all of this like comp on like a house that's like 300 times bigger, right? And then you come back and you try and compare it or something, and your ARV is like totally off. And really the ARV is like 110, right? And you're buying it for 90, and you have to put 50 into it to bring it up to code because you have all this stuff that you got to do. We're going to be like, hey, that's really not a good deal. Like you should no, you should not do that.
Well, that brings up another good thing. That exact example, I thought I was in the middle of the 2008 through 10 economy crash and the housing bubble. That made me really think. And I thought, well, we won't have another one of those because we're smarter now. The banks are smarter and everything else. Well, just that exact example.
Okay.
The appraised value of such home that was 2 miles away is probably fake appreciated to a ballooned level.
Yeah.
And then you go buy it for that X number of dollars. And then the economy comes back down to where it should be. And then at that time, you have $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in an asset that was a fake appreciation because it was based off sales comps of what everything's selling for and not what they can sell for now. And now you have a loan on that and you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's so all that being said, right? Like there are certain, and it's all based upon your risk tolerance, right? If your risk tolerance is like, hey man, I'm gonna go, balls to the walls, and I'm scared money don't make no money, and I'm gonna YOLO everything into Dogecoin, and I'm 22 years old and I just want a Lamborghini, whatever, right? Like that's what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
That's a totally different risk profile, right? Than the guy who's super wealthy, made his money. It's in super secure, conservative assets that he's now trying to capitalize on, like the appreciation that has happened over, a decade. And he's fully depreciated out and he's just ready to be done with the tenants, the trash, the liabilities, right? And he wants to protect his downside. Right. There's two very, very, very different investment strategies. One's using a very conservative portfolio, diversified of, your standard, mutual funds, ETFs, like those types of things, right? You're putting it in the S&P and that type of strategy, right? Maybe even like a little bit of bonds here and there, although we would probably recommend against those. But, there's that. And then, the other guy's like, well, hey, Elon just bought Twitter, so buy it all, right?
Yeah, buy it all, right? Buy it all. You'll never hear me talk about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cryptocurrencies in a positive manner. I am not that. And mostly because I've seen the horror stories. I've been involved with people that their sole retirement was relied on stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and they lost it.
Yeah.
And they had to go back to work. It was a terrible thing. And then crypto, if I don't understand it 100%, I don't invest in it. And
crypto is a different situation altogether. That's a whole different podcast.
It is, for sure.
But yeah, sure. I mean, I've seen some crypto millionaires coming out of nowhere who put 50 grand in and went to 50 million. They actually did a deferred sales trust because you can do a DST with crypto. Yeah, she put 50 grand in like 10 years ago, shot up to 50 million. Now she's just straight Bitcoin. Yeah, it's just like overnight. Now she's a smart girl.
Right? Yeah.
And she deferred.
But she was probably educated in that sector.
Or at least gained not dumb. Yeah, put it that way. Right. Like she knew what she was doing. She worked for a highly well-known tech company that I won't say, but anyway, she she took 5 million of it, right? Did a deferred sales trust, deferred about 1.85 million in tax. Ended up putting that into a business venture with her roommate in college where they do like education, like nonprofit education for kids in other countries. And it's a pretty cool, like little story that they're doing. But that's cool. Deferring 1.85 million in tax that, they're given to the government who's doing, no one knows what they're doing. Like, so, even no one, like that makes no sense. So it's like, we're better stewards of those resources right now. So we'll keep those. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Anyway, but yeah, so we're kind of getting to that time crunch there. So what other questions do you have? And I'll try and answer them real quick.
Honestly, I think you've answered about everything. The first thing was the 1031. The second thing was the cash or debt. As long as it's not cartel money, we're not worried about it.
Yeah.
But I think it's everything. And then again, if we come across people that bring it to us, we need to get them straight to you as professionals, and we team up and we take care of this problem together.
Yeah.
And it works. It works perfectly because we have passed millions of dollars because we could not answer the question confidently.
Right.
Because we just didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, cool. Well, if you guys are interested in learning more about this, you can start your journey with the Deferred Sales Trust at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And Eddie,
yes.
Where can people go to we've talked a lot about this, but real quick before we go, plug your fund. What do you guys look for? What's the strategy?
So, it's another 506c fund. We're looking to invest in Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, a little bit of Louisiana. So with that, we're looking for assets that's 150 to 750 units. We're looking for Class B, Class A value add. We're looking for that deferred maintenance portion, off market, of course. And we haven't decided yet whether it's going to be $50 million or $250 million fund. We do know that's the biggest target's a 70-30 waterfall with anywhere from a 5 to 8% preferred return. And we also plan to have maybe some Class A preferred equity in there. Somebody wants to put in a large lump sum, say an institution, and they want to be first and foremost or secondary to the main debt.
Yeah.
So that pref equity piece could be there. Our first fund was a A and B model. You had your LPs and you had us as a BP, or an LP as a B member. So this one probably be an A, B, and C. So we'll have those pref equity pieces in there. We'll have the B, the LPs, and then we'll have us as the general partners.
Awesome. Cool. So if you guys want to learn more about that, and all multifamily, correct? No other asset class.
Nope, just multifamily.
How many doors do you guys currently have under management?
So we actually dispositioned everything that we owned. Yeah. And so we're doing it about the highest risk possible. But we're partnered up with some people that have around 5,000 units under management currently. And they're going to be a huge addition to the team. And with that, it will definitely help with every aspect of going faster.
Sure.
Everybody wins together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work, for sure.
And
if you don't have good people around you, you're
the smartest person in the room, leave.
Yeah.
Unless you're there to teach and getting paid highly to do it.
Even then, don't stay too long.
Don't stay more than you're welcome.
Sounds good. Okay, so you guys can find more about your fund, right? So they have to go through investor verification and all that. So accredited investors only in this one.
Yes.
So you guys definitely need to go to their website, JE Capital INV, which does stand for invest. I learned that earlier today. So JECapitalINV.com.
Yeah. So you can reach us over Facebook, Instagram. We're working on a company Instagram page. We have a company Instagram page. We're working on a LinkedIn company page. You can find me or my business partner, Jennifer Austin, on LinkedIn personally. Facebook, YouTube, Better Business Bureau. You can search us about anywhere. You type in JE Capital, we're coming up. Especially if you type in JE Capital, INV at the end, we're there.
You're there. Absolutely. Awesome. And you guys can always stop by capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get your deferred sales trust started. There's tons of information on there, tons of information on YouTube. We also have a mastermind every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And you can sign up for that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Eddie, I'll definitely send you the link to that so you guys can pop on. That's a weekly mastermind where we go and we do things like, case studies, and people ask questions. They come in, and that's where that one gentleman who we talked about earlier in the episode, with the primary home problem and all that, that's where we deep dived into that and gave him that solution. So there's a ton of value to be added there. So absolutely come and check that out. You can find me at kingdomluxuryrealty.com. If you guys are in Newport Beach area, Newport, Huntington, Laguna, that stretch of Southern California coast where the asset values are bananas high and you got even crazier taxes. Come learn about how you can defer all those taxes on the sale of your primary home using the Deferred Sales Trust, and how we have partners like JE Capital to where you can put your funds once you've deferred millions and millions of dollars on your capital gains tax. So I have a client right now who's looking to sell his property. He bought it for $1 essentially back in the 90s, and he's selling it for around 10. He's got, $9 million tax. Gain is like a $3 to $4 million tax liability. So that's, almost 40% of that, and he's an older gentleman looking to retire and live off the proceeds. So why give $4 million?
Why? I mean, you did such a good job to appreciate $9 million over that period of time. Why would you want to give any back?
No, give none back.
I mean, that was another thing that we felt was had brought so much value and purpose to general individuals is, we can take your money that you would normally pay taxes on. We invest it in the real estate. you defer your taxes, and then at that point you get a check back, whether that be every month, every quarter, every year.
Right.
So you're deferring your taxes and making money at the same time. Plus your money is still appreciating because it's still invested in multifamily or in real estate.
Yeah, not only that. And, the other problem with 1031s that I'll just quickly mention before I know I got to get you out of here, but the other problem is like you said, you disposed of a lot of your assets, right? And that's, there's a lot of people in there. Well, you can't 1031 those. That's too many people, right? There's no way. Everyone's getting their cash back and everyone's paying their tax, but each individual could do a deferred sales trust and defer all their tax.
Mm-hmm. They
could. So you could liquidate the whole thing, right? And what's great is, your partner may not want to do a DST and they don't have to, right? So it's phenomenal for those syndications that we're doing where we're deferring the tax, right? And then giving the flexibility of the partners to either they can make their own choice. They want to defer it, they can. They don't want to, they don't have to, right? But it's not a one for all or all for one like a 1031. So you have that flexibility piece as well. So anyways, Eddie,
I love it.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you.
And guys, go to jecapitalinv.com or just Google JE Capital and they'll pop up. If you're interested in this fund, go connect there. Again, don't forget about the mastermind group. You find that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And thanks again, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy is the best way to create, preserve, and grow your wealth. Please rate, review, subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks, Eddie.